So, do any of you guys have like Sage healers? Because we do have a couple Sage healers that have some questions. Particularly, just glean any knowledge that you have, and also how to do, what to prioritize on.
Do you want to go, Bill?
I don't Sage heal, dude.
Okay. So I don't Sage heal either, but there's some things I've tanked for Sage healers for years now. Some things I would say are utilize your cooldowns effectively.
The
Sometimes
utilities. Talk about the
Yeah.
utilities first.
I don't know about the utilities. Which utilities are you talking about?
So like when you do a ranked arena, one utility I can see that's always annoying to have to go against is bubble stun.
Oh yeah.
That's a
Oh,
great
the one where
utility.
it blows up and stuns people.
Yeah. I'd say that utility is probably one of the best defensive heal utilities you'll have, because if you go against melee DPS, GG, you can stun them and protect yourself for some time.
It's not just melee DPS though. The range on the stun is pretty large. I think it's what, around 8 meters.
5
maybe?
meters?
Is it 5 meters? Okay. And a lot of times you're gonna get someone caught in the crosshairs of that. The only thing I don't like about bubble stun is that me trying to heal, I always try to stay away from the damage. And if someone's trying to get me, I'm probably kiting them anyway. But if they do have the damage to pop bubble, that is an effective ability to have. Because I mean, there's no effort on your part. If it breaks and it stuns them, you just got a free stun out of it.
And it's very little resolve too that it builds.
Yeah, very little.
Alright, I'll be AFK for about 30 minutes.
But back to because I don't know a lot about the inherent like abilities you would take in your tier, but the big thing that we always tell people is know when to use your bubble. A lot of sages, as soon as they start getting focused, they want to pop their bubble, and that's kind of a bad way to go about it, because your first thing should always be to try to get away from the damage. You have a lot of mobility as a sage, so using force speed and the egress should always be your first priority. I would never use force speed for any other reason other than to kite people who are trying to focus me, or in the rare case, to chase someone down that might have got pulled away from you to save their life. But even then, that would be the onus should be on that person to get back to their healer as soon as possible. A lot of healing is making sure your team understands where you're at and where they need to be in correlation to you to make sure they're getting heals. And it's the onus is really on them to make sure they're in that range, because if they get out of it, they're putting themselves and the team at risk. So a lot of times when people die, it's not because the healer wasn't healing them, it's because they did something stupid and put themselves in a situation where they got globaled, or they chased someone that was not with the rest of the party and they weren't able to make up for the error in moving away from the team. There are some instances where it's okay for someone to run out and chase someone if they're confident in their ability to achieve what they're going out there to achieve, which is hopefully to kill that person. But other than that, you should really be cognizant of where you're at and do your healer a huge favor and stay within range and within sight, so that they're not moving around too much to try to keep you alive. Because with healers, if they're moving towards you to heal you, you're putting them at risk to get stunned, and you're putting them out of position and putting them in a space where ranged DPS might be able to open up on them and start DPSing them and killing them. And it's a lot easier for a healer to heal other people than it is to heal themselves while they're getting focused. Because if they have to cast for whatever reason, then their casts are being slowed down by damage, incoming damage, and things of that nature. But back to the bubble. I always tell Sage healers, I'm playing with them in solo rank, to never pop that until they're at around 50% health, because if you're popping it before then, you're kind of just wasting it. You never know what might have happened. You want to kind of waste as much of the enemy team's burst as you can, and then pop the bubble at around 50% and make them kind of get out of their burst rotation, because a lot of burst comes from the ability to use all of their talents in succession, and if they can't do that and they have to switch targets, then they just lost their ability to kill someone.
Don't bubble
Speaking-
too late though.
Yeah.
With bubble, do you guys know things that prevent it? Because I've actually had recently issues with not being able to pop my bubble. It won't be available, or
If they force you to pop your stun breaker, you're not gonna be able to pop your bubble if you're like just electronet or whatever.
Yes. Electronet prevents you from being bubbled. So if at any point you get electronetted, you should
You have to CC break.
it as a sage.
Okay.
You have to. There's no other option. Like if you don't CC break it, you're gonna die.
Got
And
it.
we can tell you that from experience. If sages mess up or sorks mess up and don't pop one of our commandos electronets, we're gonna kill them. That's just the consequence for not using it, and that's a strategy that teams will use to get you to pop your bubble early too. So we'll net them, make them CC break, and then make them bubble right away. And now we know they don't have it for later on in the fight. So when we decide that we want to burst them again, it's easier for us to kill them. And as a
Cool,
sage healer,
thanks.
that's something you should be aware of. And like caution, and that's something your team should be aware of too. If you ever pop your bubble or your CC break, your team should know that, because you're going to need a lot more protection at that point, because you're not going to be able to kite and things of that nature. Other than that, I would say stay mobile. Try not to stand in the same place all at the same time, because people will pick up on it, and if they know you're going to be behind that pillar, that's the only pillar you're going to kite around, they'll start AoEing it and things like that. So switch your position up so that you're keeping them guessing. Choose different places to kite around, things like that.
So, say you're in
Whoops.
Alderaan, like the war zone, and you're a healer in mid. Where is a good position for that healer generally to be at?
I alternate between the right and the left pillars in the back, and if the fight is going well and we're pushing the fight, I will kite around the pylon in the middle where you actually cap the objective.
Okay.
It really all depends on the killing, because if you're able to push away from your start area towards theirs, you
User
can
in your
closer
channel
to the
timed out.
stairs and the node where you cap middle at, or you could end up being pushed back yourself, and you're going to have to float around those two pylons in the back.
Okay. Any general advice for healers, like, as far as like utilities, short of healing, what else inherently can healers do to help out, especially when focus firing a target?
Stun. For me, like, all healers have the ability to off DPS, so if your team isn't in a dire situation where they might get killed, you can make sure that you're picking up the target that they're trying to kill and help put some DPS on them. The other thing you can do is make sure you're stunning either the healer or the tank if that opportunity arises.
What about cleansing? Do you save it mostly for the stuns on other people?
Yeah, if someone gets force lifted, you should save your cleanse to get them out of the force lift, so they don't have to pop their CC break on it.
Okay.
Other than that, there's not a lot of cleansing going on in PvP unless you have a perk with your cleanse that mitigates damage that you're taking, like the commando does.
No,
if you
Sage
choose to
doesn't
pick
have that.
talent. Other than that, I would say save your burst heal rotation for the end of encounters. So like, say someone starts getting DPS, I wouldn't immediately open up with your best set of healing abilities, because you might just They might be fiending the DPS to try to get you to waste your burst heals, and then turn to another target and just absolutely.
You are now less efficient.
So always look at healing from a what can I manage and what am I not gonna manage. Like if I don't burst heal this person, are they gonna die? Type. That's how you should look at healing in general. And also understand, like, try to watch what's fighting. Don't get too sucked into your ops frame. Like watch what's happening, because a lot of times you can see people coming for you before they actually get to you, because you are standing away from the fight. And that'll kind of give you an indication, like, oh, they're running towards me, I'm gonna run over here. And sometimes they'll just give up. It's really funny if you start watching those types of things and notice, you're like, wow, they gave up really easy, and you can just kind of laugh about it in your team speak. And it's funny to see things like that mitigating problems for you. Awareness is very big in PvP, as opposed to, you know, in PvE, it's like, as I heal PvE, I notice that I can, outside of standing as stupid, to kind of really just focus on my operations frame.
Yeah, you can kind of plant and
Yeah,
get blindsided. It's really easy to do that.
that's not the case with PvP, because if
Well,
you
and-
stand still for too long, you end up in trouble.
In PvE, I mean, you can also build off of certain expectations. X mechanic is about to happen, I need to
Yeah,
budget
exactly.
for this. And PvP, it's just freaking chaos, and it's managing that chaos.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things we wanted to do with you guys is, and this is...
I'm sorry to interrupt, guys, but you know the green event.
Yep.
I was doing pretty good on the PvP area, and few times I went with my PvP gear, well, whatever I have. I don't know if it's good or not, but I keep dying. But I went with my main tank gear, and I was kicking ass. And I got the little thing that says bolster.
Yep. The way Ilum works is based on a bolster system. So if you have PvE gear, you're gonna get bolstered anyway, and sometimes the stats are more beneficial. So unless you're in full PvP gear with augments and stuff like that, you're probably better off wearing a set of PvE gear. Just because when you mix up gear, the bolster on Ilum is kind of weird.
Sometimes in war zones, during the fights, when they kill me, I change my gear half and half, and I do better. How come?
I would have to look at the gear pieces to honestly judge that accurately, but
I'm going there so I can show you. Hold on.
okay.
You also gotta take into account that the other team you're facing might have been a lot harder to kill the first time around than the second one. So you can't just focus on yourself on that one as much as you want to. Maybe the other guy was using a ton of epics, didn't get bolster, but he was in PvE gear and got smashed, right? Or maybe
exactly.
the guys with you were doing all damage. It's all, I mean, it's especially in 8v8, there's so many other factors besides you.
I'm stuck back here.
He tried to cheese me.
No, I'm not joking, and I understand what you're saying, but the other night I was doing the center, the west and east side, and I capped the east side, and then I was told to move to the center side, and I have 5 people beating the shit out of me, and they were like, all right, we're not doing anything to him.
Well, sometimes
Sounded like somebody threw out their taunt when they needed it.
I will
Yes.
say in general, because this seems like what your question is oriented towards. In PvP areas, PvP gear is supreme. As long as it's 168 and higher, there's nothing that receives bolster above 168. So if you have 168 gear, you're gonna be fine. There are pieces of gear that bolster really well. There's some green relics out there that will give you 168 bolster, but as a rule of thumb, there is no gear that gives bolster to the 174 level. And if you're in Ilum and you have gear that's over 174 rating, you're not getting the expertise bolster that you could get. And if you're wearing gear that's over 174 in a war zone or an arena, you're definitely not getting very good bolster out of that.
That's what I was talking about, Antoine, with your that link that I posted in TeamSpeak. Guy's YouTube video.
I'm gonna watch it later.
Okay, but basically what he breaks down is how to get the maximum effect of the bolster system. Unfortunately, if you're in 192s or 186s or what have you, not only do you not get a very good bolster, but it severely cripples your stats. So
yeah, there's a diminishing return for wearing rating gear to PvP areas.
Take a look at what I have right now, because these are 162 PvP, I think.
well,
Don't run through them.
I'm not running through.
your headpiece is 192 and 186.
Okay, so with
Hold on.
your pants, for instance, you're not gonna receive bolster you're gonna get the raw expertise, but because you have a PvE armoring in there, it's gonna punish you because it's not a full piece of PvP gear. So where that 162 might normally receive bolster, now it's not receiving any bolster because you have a PvP mod and enhancement in it.
Oh, now this makes sense. Alright.
One thing I kind of noticed when I was starting to gear my tank was when I was in really well mitigated PvE armor, it was taking them forever to kill me because it was at like 53k health, tons and tons of mitigation, but I was doing the DPS of like equivalent of just tickling them.
Yeah, exactly.
Check this one out.
Okay. Okay, yeah, the gear you have now will definitely probably receive full bolster, but the problem is with the level 35 gear, because there's such a level gap between level 35 and 60, you're not going to receive the stats that you might receive if it was a low piece of 50 or 55 gear. The amount of bolster you get scales on the level of the mod or enhancement or armoring that you're putting into the piece of gear.
What you say, I mean, is go 162 or 174 on this same armor?
What I'm saying is if you could get green 162s, that would be your best bet. They receive more bolster.
I would just run the unranked war zones until you get enough. You get a piece here, a piece there, and then next thing you know, you're fully.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't spend too much time trying to check your gear because honestly, with a good team and everything, you can have success no matter what.
I think it took me about a week and a half to get full exhumed gear, unranked gear. So if you just do it, periodically, it's pretty quick. Make sure you do your dailies and your weekly.
Thank you, guys.
No problem, man.
Are we kind of at the point where it's like spurred out questions, not so much class?
Yeah, we can move to that.
Okay. Yeah, so way back, you made a point saying shadow tanks, they obviously shouldn't be taking defense, but enhancement should be power surge combo. So am I kind of getting at that the only defensive stats a shadow tank should have should be in the earpiece and the implants, and that should be the earpiece implants, and that's it? And they shouldn't have defense on them, they should be the shield absorb ones?
No. Sorry, I might have communicated that wrong. Whatever gear you get tanking wise, that's 174. If you look at armory, legs, whatever, if you see a piece of gear in those main pieces that has defense rating on it, I would consider replacing the defense rating where you can with power surge, where it's applicable.
Okay.
It's not, as far as implants and earpieces go, honestly, dude, you could run whatever you wanted. If you wanted to run DPS power implants and earpieces, you could, or you could run the tanking ones. It's entirely up to you. On this character, he's a tank, and you can see that I have all DPS implants and earpiece on this guy, just because for pressure damage purposes. And
Sorry, and who are you?
I'm Michael.
Oh, your two names.
Michael.
Right in front of you, Anton. Jumping around.
Guardian, alright. You're the guy that I need to look.
But on the other
Sorry,
side, you will see everything else on my right side is all defense gear or tank gear, and my belt and bracers are DPS, as well as my weapons are both DPS. But you can see that I had to pull a shield. You still have to keep your shield. You can't ever run a focus as a tank.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because the main hand and like, it would have been better to grab a might hilt instead of a guardian hilt. But
Yeah.
since I'm stacking so much endurance into augments, or not might, for resolve instead of full force wielder.
Yep.
So you're using leader gear, war leader. I don't know how to say this.
Yes.
That's just the shell.
Because I have that.
Yeah, the war leader is what tanking gear is for PvP. It should all be called war leader for guardians and juggernauts. So you can see that my head, my chest, my arms, my pants, and my boots are all war leader, because I need that for the base tanking stats that they provide. And then everything else I have is DPS gear. You can see that I chose to take alacrity, power alacrity, implants, and earpiece. The reason I chose that is because alacrity right now reduces the internal cooldown on your GCD, and the quicker I can guard swap, the better. So if my GCD is reduced, then I can guard swap people faster and also use my abilities faster. It's not something I would take on a tank unless you were a guardian, to be honest. Like, it's just not worth it for the other two, because they're more shield dependent, because this class has a lot of inherent abilities that allow them to take care of themselves that the other two tanks don't. That's why I can afford to wear a little bit more DPS gear than, say, Vanguard or Shadow.
But I'm sorry. Some question maybe. But you're a main tank.
Yes.
You don't mind if I copy everything that you have right now and write it down and buy that stuff?
Absolutely not, man.
Thank you.
This is just out of me being curious. How are you guys doing in ranked season?
I think we're 17 wins and 1 loss right now.
Oh, nice. And this is your like first year all on your mains and all that?
This is our first time running ranked as this team. We never ran ranked before preseason, and even more so, the team that we're currently running with, we never ran ranked again until season 4, I think, is what we're in.
Yeah.
So it's a new team, fresh team, and we've had pretty good success. We queued up last night, won all 3 games that we played against Jinsari, so it went pretty
Nice.
So out of curiosity, are you guys setting up times to run ranked teams? Is that what you're doing? Because
We
we've
don't.
done ranked pop, or we've tried and we never get pops.
We don't. Usually we will only queue if other people are advertising, or if we decide, hey, we want to try, we will advertise. Like immediately we'll get in general chat on imp side and pub side and say, hey, we're queuing ranked if anybody wants to play against us, you know, so.
Yeah, because we've been in about, or at least me personally, I've been about 5 hours of solo ranked queued as a tank. Nothing. And then we've been in a group queue for 2 hours.
You're not going to get a queue pop as a tank in solo ranked because there has to be another tank in the queue for you to get a pop because of the way the matchmaking
Oh, great.
is. And the thing with solo ranked is that it matches the classes. So if there's 4 DPS in the queue, they're only going to get queued against 4 other DPS. If there's 3 DPS and a healer, they're only going to get matched against 3 other DPS and a healer. So if you're the only tank in the queue, you will never get a pop. So if you're doing that, it would be beneficial for you to say, hey, there's tank queuing for solo ranked. If there's another tank that wants to queue, then I would greatly appreciate it.
And if I just wanted to increase my solo queue times, it'd be best to either get a DPS set and run DPS, or best to just make another DPS tune.
Yep, absolutely. If you want to do solo ranked, if you see solo ranked ratings, those are pretty much all DPS specs players. Like they all DPS. There's not a lot of support going on in one solo ranked setting, which is why I hate it.
Hey buddy, I noticed that you have some implants that are for PvP. Where I get that?
You get them from the same vendor that you purchased the rest of the gear from. In the combat section of the Republic fleet.
I guess I don't have the... Alright. Alright, thank you.
No problem.
I apologize to sound dumb, but this is my first time playing this game, and this is my main character, and this is my first time doing this.
No worries, man. You don't sound dumb at all. I'm happy to help.
Thank you very much.
So let's talk a little bit about like ranked and well 4v4 tactics, particularly terminology, because some people. Hold on, I got a lag spike. Okay, did you hear anything I just said?
Yeah, I heard it.
No.
Okay,
No.
so let's talk tactics for just a minute on ranked and just regular 4v4s. Particularly like terminology, like if you're leading a team, strategy-wise, you know, what terms are you using, and for those who may or may not know, what is a tank tunnel, you know, what is focus firing, things like that.
Okay, so we'll start. I'll just briefly overview each map and talk about key terms that you should recognize. So we'll start with traditional hutball. There is no other method of like referring to hutball other than north and south. So if you're gonna say anything like that, use north and south, because when people hit their map, the enemy goal is always on the north side and the friendly goal is always on the south side if you're Republic, unless you're in a Republic versus Republic and you have rotworms, so you gotta just flip it. You would be on the north side and your goal would be on the south side. That's only important if you have a team that, for whatever reason, they're running the ball the wrong way, which hopefully will never happen to you.
Happened in the match we were in just a few days ago.
Yeah, but that's okay. And if people rage on you and lose their shit, like, don't get upset with them per se, because I mean it kind of is a embarrassing thing to do. Because when people do that, there's really no one else to blame but yourself. You just gotta maintain your awareness. That's why I tried to tell you guys that it was me. I was hoping if I notified you that it was me telling you you were going the wrong way, you would actually turn around.
That guy going the wrong way is the pug.
User joined your channel.
Yeah, or whoever it was. I was like, it's Sindel, please turn around. So, yeah, it happens to people sometimes. It's if you're playing football and it ever happens to you, don't think you're dumb or a scrub, just correct it. You know, fix it. Other than that, some terms you will hear people say is go in the pit. If they ever tell you to go in the pit, that's the area underneath the fire traps. If you say, people say at Hail Mary. Hail Mary is usually a term that's referred to the top part of the end zone you're trying to score. It means they're right there and they're open for a pass, so you can just throw them the long ball and they'll catch it and go right down the ramp and score. Anytime you see someone say that, though, you should make it a priority to get to them as soon as possible and pass them the ball, because they're at a severe they have a severe chance of being knocked off and not being able to score. If they're up there, you want to get them the ball. Other than that, there's not much terminology for regular football. It's one of the easier ones that you can just kind of go in and play objectively and not have to worry about numbers and stuff like that. You don't really have to worry about killing people unless it's the enemy ball carrier and things of that nature. I will say... Oh, go ahead, Antoine.
Can I make a joke about this? Usually when I go to hotball, I focus on the enemy and try to make them try to kill me, so the other guy, the guy who has the ball, go for it, because I don't want the ball and I don't like it and I'm slow and I'll keep everybody on me. Does that work?
It's a good strategy, but I don't think a lot of people would fall for it if they were traditionally like PvPers. Unless you like are literally like taunting them and calling them scrubs and /say, it might work, but then you might get a bad reputation for yourself.
A good team in Hutball will just they're not going to stand around and fight unless they have to. They're going to start working on objectives. They're going to continue moving, and so you can taunt them and challenge them all you want, but you may not get much accomplished.
Yeah, but the general strategy for Hutball is to designate half of your team for offense and half of your team for defense and /or controlling the ball spawns. So when you do score, you have another team ready there to get the ball and pass it right back to your offensive team. So instead of like running your whole team like to the end zone every time, you know, like it's beneficial to keep some people back to try to control the ball spawn, so the other team doesn't just let you score and go grab the ball and score right behind you, and so on and so forth.
Would you consider particular classes / specs more suitable for offense or defense?
Yes. Your offensive players are guardians because they can leap. They have 2 leaps. You would want to keep your Sage on offense because they can pull people to the end zone and also heal. And if you have vanguards or players like that can help DPS the people trying to kill your ball carrier, that's also important. A thing though to be aware of in Hutball is that if you wipe their whole team, remember you're running towards the spawn and that's where they're going to end up, so sometimes it's better to control them and slow them than it is to kill them, because you don't want them to get back to the end zone and just have another chance to mess up the cap.
With full health.
The classes that are particularly good at defense are commandos, gunslingers, and any class that can stealth, because they can stay in stealth and just wait, and if there is someone sitting there that's going to grab the ball after you score, you can sap them and grab the ball really quickly. Gunslingers can sit right on the ball spawn and hunker down so they cannot be stunned, and they can knock anyone that tries to come back up, and they can also see stealthers who are trying to do the same thing to you. When we ran 8v8 ranked, we always kept a gunslinger in our team for that reason, to control mid. They're by far the best class at doing it.
Man, if only 8v8 ranked was still around.
tell me about it. I'm a OG 8v8 ranked fan. I would love for them to bring it back, but
That would be nice.
Better than cross server.
yeah, tell me about it.
So what about team composition? Let's say that you're in a 4v4 unranked match. You're just doing you've got your 4-man team, which consists of tank, healer, and 2 DPS. And the enemy team shows up. They've got 2 tanks, a healer, and a DPS. And let's, I don't know, say it's Tatooine or something. Any general tips there?
In general, I would say never change your spec or your rotate or your comp. In ranked, it's very important for you to run with something that everyone is 100% comfortable playing. There is no comp that you can't beat, particularly if people are running like 2 tanks and things of that nature. I wouldn't say, oh, we need to run 2 tanks too, because you can still most definitely beat them. There's just different strategies that go into doing that. So if you wanted to beat a team that's carrying 2 tanks, hopefully the team's not dumb and one of their tanks is probably not really a tank. He's a DPS. He may be in tank spec, but he's wearing complete DPS gear. And teams will do that because some of the tanks get really good damage, pressure damage, AoE damage on the whole team, and they're still mitigating a lot of damage taken through the guard that they have on someone on the team. The thing with running 2 tanks is the team that you're facing is heavily defense dependent, and they're heavily dependent on putting out damage on everyone to try to pressure your healer into running out of resources or not being able to keep up with all the damage until someone dies. That's usually going to be like a battle of attrition. Like, it's not going to be a quick fight probably.
Right.
Your strategy should be to identify the tank that's wearing DPS gear, probably the one that doesn't have as much health, and tank tunnel that person. Tank tunnel, if you ever hear people saying that, means that everyone is DPSing the tank, as opposed to, you know, someone that's guarded or the healer or whatever. So if you're ever facing a team with 2 tanks, I would target the weakest tank and try to kill him first instead of wasting damage through guard. Because literally, if you're hitting someone that's guarded, you're losing raw damage.
Right. What about general strategies for like setting up line of sight and I don't know, where are the best places to fight in each of the 4v4s in your opinion? Or, and I realize that depends on the team that you're facing and your composition, but is there any like areas you should not fight?
For orbital station, I always say avoid going up top. And the reason for this is because you're at risk of being knocked down. So if you're against a team that has a lot of knockbacks, like Sage, Shadow, Commando, I would never go up top to fight them. Gunslinger, you know, those all have powerful knockbacks that could separate you and your team, and they're all AoE knockbacks. Now, if you're against a team that has like Vanguards and Scoundrels and Knights, I wouldn't be so hesitant to go up top, but I still would rather not fight up there, in my opinion, because it puts your healer in a really bad spot because they have nothing to kite around and they can be pulled, DPS at range and things of that nature. My opinion, the best place to fight in orbital station is down around one of the GTNs, so that your healer can kite around the GTN and continue to do what they need to do.
Okay.
So somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, we usually start out behind the screen, so as soon as you drop down from the spawn point and you come out through the first little hallway, there's like a screen as a barrier before you get to the middle GTN area. We usually try to use that area as line of sight. The downside of that is near the stairwells there's a lot of areas for the enemy to go and get you at line of sight at a disadvantage.
Staying behind the screen is really good if you're against a team that has nothing but ranged DPS, but if you're against a team that does a lot of AoE, then you're going to be grouped up back there and you're going to take a lot of overflow damage that you probably wouldn't have to take if you were out in the open, and you could run out of it.
Right.
But it's not bad for your healer because they can stay off to the side and little thing that leads up to the ramp and get their LOS from that. For McKeb Mesa Arena, if you go and fight underneath the bridge, there are little rocks in the ground that your healer can kite around to LOS, and everyone else kind of has open area to where they can run out of AoE and things of that nature if they need to. And there's also on the sides, little areas on the sides of the bridge where you could fight and kite around the little huts and barriers there. I would avoid fighting on the bridge or just rushing them and fighting them on their side of the map if you could. For Corellia Square, you would want to fight either right in the middle, where you could kite around the light posts, or all the way on Republic's side around that purple and green little kiosk looking thing, to where your healer can kite around that. You never want to fight out in the open in Corellia Square because it's a really open map, so you want to force them to go somewhere. And fighting up top is bad because if you get knocked down or whatever, you might LOS your healer and it takes a while to get back up there.
Right.
Tatooine Canyon, you want to fight down in the middle if you can, so they can fight around the moisture evaporators and / or at your spawn, to where you can kite in between that little gap in between the two generators or whatever they are. Right when you drop down, your healer can just float in between that and run around it. Just try not to get separated and knocked down into the pit if you're gonna fight up there. That's why I like being in the pit, because there's not any level changes. I don't have to worry about anyone being somewhere where I can't heal them. That's all of the maps. Did I miss one? Tatooine, McKeb, Orbital, and Corellia.
I think that's it.
Recap, really quick for me. Anton over here, tank. Saber throw, force leap, and then what?
I would go into warding strike to get my damage reduction, 3% damage reduction.
And then?
It's really situation dependent on who you're fighting, but if you can, Guardian Slash is one of your powerful abilities, and Blade Storm should be your priority. Using that to mitigate damage.
Let's say targeting right now a friend of mine, which is a Guardian. So he's DPS, and I know he's listening. So
just give him a, if you want to try, just give him a duel and see how you do. But I wouldn't say for them because it's going to be dependent on who gets the first force leap. That's the most important thing for you against another Guardian. Because if you save him throw, he's most definitely going to get the first force leap.
I always have to see you with another Guardian. That was my main question.
Buddy left your channel. User left your channel.
I guess the lag doesn't help.
This could go until the end of time.
I don't get the joke. Whatever.
Oh, we're doing. He's gonna get me though.
3. I'm probably gonna have to go in a few minutes, but I will be on if you need me tonight, and I got my DPS up to about 4K.
Alright, yeah, I think we're gonna be missing at least one person.
Yeah, Zalos, you got everything you need from me?
Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Alright, let me know if you think you need, how many do you have total now?
Oh, let me count. I've got 8.
I'm gonna give you one more because 3 people came.
Okay. What we wanted to do is, and it doesn't have to be right now, I realize people probably need to eat dinner, but we wanted to take and kind of put a capstone on this and maybe break off into 4-man teams and just do some regular war zones.
User disconnected from your channel.
Obviously with good team composition. But like I said, I also realize it's getting close to dinner, so I don't know if maybe that's something you guys want to do a little bit later, or it can even be tomorrow. And we also have, as a token of our appreciation for donating your time and knowledge, we have some cartel packs to give you.
It's okay. You guys don't have to give me anything. I'm happy to come help.
Well, I figured
Seriously.
it's the least we can do, and I mean, by all means, you guys donated your time to come here and do this, so it's really nothing. I would really much like you to take these and open them up and, you know, make bukus of great things.
Alright, yeah, well, thanks.
From my standpoint, I appreciate, guys. You are awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for wanting to PvP.
No worries.